In a world where legends rise and fall with every punch, where the roar of the crowd fades, but the stories live on. This is where those stories are told. This is Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. From the blood, the sweat, and the glory, to the controversies, comebacks, and knockouts, we go behind the ring, no fluff, no hype, and definitely no BS. Just the truth behind the fight game. And we've been doing it for over 2 decades. A podcast pioneer, now a Hall of Famer.
Great. What's that ego gonna be like?
And next, the comeback kid.
Wait, isn't he like 90 or something?
Shut up, he'll hear you. The reigning, defending, undisputed, heavyweight champion of boxing broadcasting. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. And it's on now.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing real well today. I hope you're doing really well today. Today's show is brought to us in part by, of course, my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now where you're watching or listening to this very show. Just go to Amazon.com. Hey, you can check out BillyCBoxing.com too, and you can order the book directly from there. Today's show is also being brought to us by Classic Boats. If you're looking for that special boat, whether it's an all-time classic that's been restored or a brand-new custom modern built boat for you, check it out, classicboats.co. Worldwide, people, classicboats.co. We got a busy show scheduled for you today. As usual, I apologize for the sudden no-show last week, but all is well. I'll be breaking down and predicting the Jarrell Miller and Lenier Pero fight, which is scheduled for this weekend in the heavyweight division. I also have the latest boxing news I'll talk about. I'll be giving you my quick thoughts on 2 big fights that are coming up. Gilberto Ramirez going up against David Benavidez, the monster, that's taking place on May 2nd. And the heavyweight clash between Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois, which is scheduled for May 9th. We got a guest returning. This week's guest is welterweight contender Michael McKinson. He's in the middle of training for his next fight, which is scheduled next weekend. So he's going to take some time off from training. And remember, he's staying up late to join us. So I appreciate him taking his time. But first, let's talk about some fight results that took place since you've been gone. Listen, last weekend in the light heavyweight division, Ben Whitaker was the main event. He's a young fighter. He's already ranked in the top 3 by the WBC in the light heavyweight division. He was facing off against Argentine Brian Suarez, and it didn't last long. He took care of him. Whitaker took care of him in the very first round, 2 minutes and 24 seconds to be exact. And Ben Whitaker improves to 11-0 with a draw, with 8 of his wins coming by knockout. And Suarez drops to 21-5. It was reported as soon as the fight was over. Eddie Hearn, who's his promoter, who's Whitaker's promoter, says Ben Whitaker will be in New York, in Brooklyn, New York, on June 27th at the Barclays Center, fighting on the Xander Zayas Boots Ennis card. So if you're going to be going to that one, you're going to get treated to a real good fighter. I love this Ben Whitaker. He's a character and a clown. But one thing I'll make a note of, if you haven't seen the fight, you can punch it up. DAZN had it, but and it's, it doesn't take much of your time. It's a 1-round fight. But what really interested me is he had said after the fight that he got some advice from none other than Terrence Crawford, who he respects extremely. And he said that Terrence Crawford said, "Hey, listen, hey kid, you got what it takes. You're a talented guy, but to be honest with you, you play with your food too much." And think about that. It's basically like a cat, who gets a mouse and doesn't want to just kill it, bats it around the house for a little while, and then finally the mouse is ripped apart or has a heart attack or whatever and drops dead. And Ben Whitaker said he heard what Terrence Crawford was saying loud and clear. And result was this past fight where he just got down to business and ended the fight early. So he's an interesting cat to watch if you haven't seen him yet. But give a shout out to Lovett in the chat room, and also my man Joel, who popped in. Yes, I did. It was an entertaining fight, and I was wondering if Triller TV had the fight this weekend. There's a local guy that fights out of Syracuse is a main event. I think it might be on Triller. But anyway, keep an eye out for Ben Whitaker. In a fight that took place a couple of weeks ago, I just wanted to give you my thoughts on it. Tyson Fury came back after more than a year, close to 2 years out, and he beat Makhamadov in his fight. My thoughts about it was, it went the distance, 120 to 108. One judge had it 120 to 108. Two of the judges had it that way, and one judge had it 119, 109. Tyson Fury now is 35 wins, 2 losses, and a draw, with 24 of his wins coming by knockout, and of his losses, 2 losses at the hands of Alexander Usyk. Makhamadov drops to 21 wins and 3 losses. One thing we learned about him is that he runs out of gas, and his MO is I come to you, I kill you, I crush you, and he runs out of gas. But yes, it's Bryce Mills. Thanks, Joel. I couldn't think of Bryce's name. I've seen him fight. He's a real talented and exciting fighter. I'm waiting for him to really step up. His last fight that I was ringside for at the Turning Stone, he was saying he wants to fight for a title and stuff. Here's the thing. He comes in shape. He fights a lot. I'm talking about Bryce Mills. He fights, throws a lot of punches. He's exciting. But, how big he is for his weight class and how often he lands flush punches, you would think that this cat had, a lot of knockouts, that he looks like he should have severe knockout power, and he just doesn't. But in any event, Tyson Fury, getting back to Tyson Fury, Tyson Fury looked like an older version of Tyson Fury. I hate to say it. He did come on towards as the fight went on. It seemed like he, shook off some ring rust. But he was fighting against a guy that is extremely a plotter. He's one-dimensional. He's got pop, but he comes plodding at you and runs out of gas. I think it was a perfect opponent for Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury immediately was calling out Anthony Joshua, which is a fight that, everybody wanted to see at one point. And I think that the value of an Anthony Joshua-Tyson Fury fight never goes away, to be honest with you. It's a huge fight for England. It's a huge fight for any place. It's a huge fight for the heavyweight division, regardless if they both fight each other next or not. I think the indication, in my opinion, the indication that Tyson Fury was so quick to call out Anthony Joshua is, let's be real, it's a money fight. Both of these guys can make a lot of money, sell out a Wembley Stadium or something. And I think Tyson Fury also realizes that his better days are behind him. And I think he might feel that so are Anthony Joshua's, and now's the time for the fight. They both could target Usyk. Who knows what Usyk is going to do? People are touting, Fabio Wardley as the guy to beat in the division. I'll be talking about that a little bit later on the show. Of course, Moses Atuma, who they think is the next thing after, getting two known people on his resume. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Word on the curb is that Anthony Joshua is going to fight a fight before Tyson Fury, and we may see Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua sometime in the fall, September. Some rumor is that Anthony Joshua may fight Dillian White. I don't know. We'll see. An update on Ryan Garcia. Now, the last time we had a show, Ryan Garcia was talking about Teofimo Lopez, and apparently either he just decided to switch gears, either Teofimo Lopez didn't play nice with the negotiation part, whatever the case may be. Now they're talking about Devin Haney being the next fighter that Ryan Garcia is going to fight. We had heard Oscar De La Hoya say that he wanted Devin Haney. I personally don't want to see Devin Haney fight Ryan Garcia again right now. I think that fight could gain a little momentum, especially if Ryan Garcia fights other names that you've heard his name associated with, like Conor Benn is one of them. Shakur Stevenson was all talking big the night Ryan Garcia beat Mario Barrios, but he's been as quiet as a mouse lately, which surprised me. I think that would be a good fight. I think it would actually be a better fight for Shakur Stevenson. Why he's not trying to make that fight, I don't know. But as far as Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney has no value. I mean, he can't draw flies to a garbage convention. This is a guy that he's unlikable. He's boring as hell. You can make an argument, he's, the sweet science. He's boring as hell. Nobody wants to watch him. He can't sell out arenas, and he needs Ryan Garcia more than Ryan Garcia needs him. And to be honest with you, that whole steroid, scandal, if you want to call it that, nothing's going to change. Ryan's going to beat the snot out of him again. I have no interest in seeing that particular fight. I could see a lot more fights I'd rather watch with Ryan Garcia. One, of course, being with Shakur Stevenson. I would have liked to have seen Teofimo Lopez. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight Conor Benn. Look, Ryan Garcia is a ticket seller. People, they want to go watch him. Whether they like him, whether they want to see him win or lose, they want to go watch him. So I think he's in the driver's seat. A couple of fights I want to talk about, and one of my main topics today is David Benavidez going up against Gilberto Ramirez. This fight is taking place next weekend. I will give a full breakdown and prediction on it next week. It is for two titles, the WBO and the WBA cruiserweight titles. Here's the thing, I really liked the fight. I gave David Benavidez, I continue to give David Benavidez a lot of credit for taking the fight. If you recall the little backdrop, David Benavidez was calling out Canelo Alvarez, and Canelo Alvarez didn't fight, so David Benavidez moved up from the super middleweight division to the light heavyweight division, and did well there, and immediately called out Canelo again at the light heavyweight division, and Canelo didn't do it, and he went and accepted the fight against Zurdo Ramirez. And, I give him credit. I like the fight. I mean, I think you're going to see two guys that are very, very similar in style. It could make for a real rock'em sock'em up fight, up close in a phone booth type fight, or it could become a real boring fight. I don't think you're going to see anything in between. I think it's either going to be a boring fight or it's going to be a rock'em sock'em, it ain't going to the final bell kind of a fight. And with that said, I think that, again, I'm giving the monster, David Benavidez, a lot of credit. Although he's a big guy and he claimed that he, had trouble making the super middleweight weight. He even said he had trouble making the light heavyweight weight. I could see him moving up to cruiserweight, feeling much more comfortable, preparing for the fight, et cetera, et cetera. But I also see Ramirez being the bigger guy. I mean, here's a guy that is coming in to weigh in at 199 pounds and can conceivably rehydrate and gain another 10 pounds. Maybe he's fighting at 209, 210 fight night if he even trains like that. I mean, he's a big dude. David Benavidez, he's not going to have to, really worry about weight. Chances are, whatever he weighs in at, if it was me making the decision, and what I would like to see is David Benavidez not put on that much weight after the weigh-in, because if he too puts on that much weight, then I'm going to think that he put the extra weight on too quickly and it didn't go on the right way, and that he's going to run out of gas because he's going to be overweight. Just because you have trouble making a weight class doesn't mean that you can instantly go up to the next weight class and do well. I mean, all you got to do is look at, the great Terrence Crawford and see that his game, where, everyone said, oh, he's off. He's been out of boxing. He's going to be rusty, when he was fighting Canelo. I knew that he was going to be prepared, that he wasn't going to be rusty. But the most important thing is that he put on all that weight, and he did it slowly. So when he was in that ring against Canelo, he didn't look like he was just heavy. He looked like he put it on correctly. And that's what I'm looking to see with David Benavidez. Gilberto Ramirez hasn't said much. I mean, he said he wants to be the new name of boxing. He wants to be that guy, which I think is great. And he's got a good opportunity of doing it. He's also said that, he wants to replace the guy who's a big name in boxing. He was referring to David Benavidez. David Benavidez is being regarded as, a top fighter, a big name. And to tell you the truth, it seems like, he's been chasing Canelo. This is a good fight for Benavidez to prove that he is an elite fighter. This is also a good fight for Gilberto Ramirez to make a statement. And I think he's got a really good opportunity. The reason why is he's a fighter that seems to be getting better. He was very raw. That's what I mean. They're both very similar. They're both raw. They're not fine-tuned fighters for sure. I mean, they'll go in there and slug it out with you. And that's what's going to make this an exciting fight. They both do that. But one of the things that I can't help but look at in this fight concerning the monster, David Benavidez has been talking a lot about things that he's going to do after this fight. He's saying that he might go back down to light heavyweight and try to, make a fight with Canelo happen. He also says, maybe I'm going to stay at cruiserweight and go after J.R. Patea. And then he says, I might even move up. I'm ready to fight Usyk. This is a guy talking about a fight that, assuming he's going to win against Ramirez, because if he loses against Ramirez, all those other doors aren't open for him. They're only open for him if he beats Ramirez. If he doesn't beat Ramirez, all the critics are going to be on David Benavidez's ass. And they're going to say he never fought anybody. He never had the right fight, blah, 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 blah. The only thing he could do was move back down to light heavyweight and then climb back up and try to dominate the light heavyweight division, which is a hot division right now. But I think he would be in a good position to take over that division by himself. But if I'm David Benavidez, I got to start thinking serious and not looking ahead. He's going to have to win that fight first. Against Ramirez, and I think it's going to be a great fight. And I don't think either one of them should look past it. And right now, if I'm looking at the way fighters are acting prior to a fight, I like the quiet, nose to the grindstone, blue collar approach, and that's what I'm seeing from Ramirez. So we'll see what happens next week. I'll break it down and give you my official prediction. The other fight I wanted to talk about was the Fabio Wardley fight against Daniel Dubois. It's for the WBO World Heavyweight title that Fabio Wardley now has. It's taking place the week after, May 9th. Fabio Wardley was the interim champion, but then Usyk gave up the title, so he became a champion. So as far as Fabio Wardley's concerned, he's really he wants to win this fight because he feels that the belt is on the line in this fight. He didn't want to be basically handed the championship, which I respect a lot. He's a real likable guy. But Danny Dubois and all the critics are anointing Fabio Wardley as the heavyweight to beat. Everybody's assuming Usyk is going to ride off into the sunset. Wardley, they keep talking about Wardley or Moses Ituma. They already got Moses Ituma in the Hall of Fame. They're working on building his statue right now. A guy that beat two names that you've heard of. One guy never beat anybody good, and the other fight was a little fishy. But yet, the so-called experts have Moses Ituma in. I've seen his name actually listed on all-time great lists already. Okay, but the truth is that Daniel Dubois is not an easy out. He's not an easy out. This is a guy. When you look at Triple D, he's fought all the big names. Look, he not only he fought Usyk twice and he lost twice, but he's got big wins over Philippe Gervik, Jarrell Miller. You could say what you want about Jarrell Miller, but he's a tough fighter. Kevin Larina, who's an extremely tough fighter. Nathan Gorman was a top domestic fighter that he fought, and of course, the destruction of Anthony Joshua. And the style that Daniel Dubois fought in the Anthony Joshua fight, I'm telling you, if he fought Usyk that way, which he did not, okay, neither fight he did not, if he fought that way, he's a tough out. And I think that if he fought that way, the way he fought against Anthony Joshua, that, Wardley's going to have trouble. Remember, Wardley, his claim to fame, I've followed Wardley, and his claim to fame is, he beat basically Frazier Clark. They fought twice. The first fight, it was a knockout, drag-out, ended in a draw. The second fight, Fabio Wardley blew him out in one round, and then he beat Joseph Parker. So really, I give him all the credit in the world for beating Joseph Parker. To me, Joseph Parker, I was shocked that Joseph Parker lost that fight. But that's it. He does have power, and he is exciting. I love, don't get me wrong. I love these kinds of fighters. It's just what's annoying is that, fan bases, promoters, networks are putting these guys in the Hall of Fame after one or two wins against, marginal opposition. And, this particular fight, I could see Daniel Dubois getting up for this fight and coming in. Let me tell you something about this fight and Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois, because they rushed him a little bit, okay? If you look at his resume, he's been in some tough fights early on. I personally think that Daniel Dubois He's young, but he's also been in some fights that, didn't turn out too well for him. And this is a make or break fight for him. If Fabio Wardley knocks him out, if he gets knocked out again, I'll give a shout out to Dela Duran, the daughter of course, the Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran. She's in the chat room. Sweetheart, I'm going to be seeing her again pretty soon in June for the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame. Hope we see all you guys there. Go to the FloridaBoxingHallOfFame.com or check them out on Facebook for all the information. Daniel Dubois is a tough fighter. Fabio Wardley, it's going to be, again, just like I said, the Ramirez Benavidez fight are going to be, it's going to be an entertaining fight. This is another one that is going to be entertaining, in my opinion. I think that, both fights, in my opinion, are 50-50 fights. If you look at the monster against Ramirez, I've been trying to figure out if it's a clear cut, so and so is going to win, and I don't think so. I could make an argument for both fighters of how they can win, Ramirez and Benavidez, and I could make the same type of an argument, not the same argument, but I can make an argument for Wardley against Daniel Dubois, as those fights being extremely close and hard to pick. But two fights, we'll be breaking them down and predicting them next week. But in a nutshell, I think that David Benavidez better start focusing. He's got a week. So, he's all done sparring. He's down in his, they're in the final week. So he should be mentally approaching this as one fight and stop talking about what he's going to do after the fight. As far as Ramirez is concerned, Ramirez is doing all the things that you do. He's not saying anything. He's talking when he has to talk, and he's giving me the impression that he's going to let his hands do the talking in the fight, and that's what I would want out of my fighter. And as far as Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois, both of those guys are respectful fighters. Neither one has really been talking smack. They both did the customary stare down at all the latest events taking place in England. They've both been ringside. As a matter of fact, Fabio Wardley's been involved with some of the broadcasts. They were basically showing off in front of the cameras. But I think you're going to see two guys doing what they got to do in that fight. And I honestly think Dubois has more on the line. So May 2nd and May 9th, we'll see what happens with that. Some news to just talk about real quick. Bam Rodriguez, Jesse Bam Rodriguez has made it official that he's moving up to the bantamweight division, and he's going to be challenging the WBA's champion, Antonio Vargas. It's taking place June 13th in Arizona. Rodriguez is 23-0, 16 knockouts, regarded as a pound-for-pound fighter, and many people believe that Monster Inoue is going to be an eventual dance partner with Rodriguez. It's somebody that I would love to see Inoue against Bam Rodriguez. Vargas is no slouch. He's 19-1 with a draw and 11 knockouts. So we'll see about that in June. I look forward to seeing Rodriguez. One thing that bothers the hell out of me, well, there's a lot of things, but when we're talking about boxing, we were just talking about heavyweights, Daniel Dubois and Fabio Wardley, two nice, respectful heavyweight fighters. Well, there's another from England. There's another heavyweight, respectful fighter, and that's Lawrence Oakley, who was scheduled to fight this weekend, and he was going to take on Tony Yoka, who's a French fighter who was a decorated Olympian and has turned pro and has had a decent career so far. These two were going to meet this weekend. But nay, Oakley tested positive for a controlled substance or a forbidden substance is the way it was worded. And he was pulled out of the card. And they were going to let the card continue, but it was announced today that the fight officially has been canceled. You know, everybody knows, all these fighters know that, you know, they're going to be tested. And they know what they can have and what they can't have in their systems. And for the fighters that try to get away with it and then claim they didn't know, I didn't know. It was the candy bar I ate. You know, oh, I went to Aunt Millie's house and she made her famous rum cake. I didn't know she threw steroids in there. I didn't know that. It's look, no matter what, and all these guys, they hire nutritionists and all this stuff. The higher end guys, and sometimes they'll take the fall or whatever. But the bottom line is, I know this is going to sound crazy, but, if a fighter's got to do that, and I know, especially in boxing, you're always looking for the edge. You want to train a little harder. You want to run that extra mile, all those things. But when you get to the cheating part, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it takes a unique individual to feel like they accomplished something if they win it under shady conditions. I wouldn't. It's like when Michael Strahan, broke my man Mark Gastineau's sack record because Brett Favre fell down for him. To me, that he shouldn't have accepted that. Shouldn't have accepted it. That wasn't a real sack. But in any event, the truth of the matter is the blame goes on Oakley, and it's a shame. The other part of the coin is, you know what? Even if you said, okay, you guys can take whatever the hell steroid you want. You want to take a steroid, as long as everybody takes the steroid, same one or whatever, it evens the playing field. However, there'll always be that one fighter that tries to do something above and beyond. So no matter what, if it was legal, if it continues to be illegal, the truth of the matter is it's up to the individual. If you're going to cheat, and you feel proud, and you feel that you earned whatever title or whatever you're fighting for that way, what else can you say? You can't really argue with that. But I'm gonna have a Zuffa boxing update coming up in a little bit. Lee Selby. Lee Selby was a former world champion. He signed with the BKB, the bare knuckle organization, as just another one. I mean, a lot of these guys are going to them, and fighters that I would think wouldn't benefit. Here's another one, that made his career, won his title, not by power punching, by his boxing ability. I mean, he was 28-4 with 9 knockouts. Had a long career and, ended it. Now he's going to do bare knuckle boxing, is similar to Yuriorkis Gamboa, who started having a suspect chin. Well, he always had a suspect chin, but as he aged and his hand speed, slowed down just a tad, people were catching up with him just as quickly as he was hitting them, and he hit the canvas, and he's going to be in bare knuckles. I was surprised to see Paulie Malignaggi. Lee Selby was quoted as saying, I've achieved everything I can in gloved boxing, from regional titles to 5 successful world title defenses. Now I'm making my bare knuckle debut in Cardiff. He says, it's the purest, no filter version of the fight game, and I'm excited to bring my speed, skill, and experience to the Trigon. I'm back to show what I can do and chase another world title. Hey, that's great. I'm glad he's doing. I'm glad they're signing. I will say this: if you've never watched it, they draw a crowd. There's no question about it. They draw a crowd. But in any event, speaking about drawing a crowd, I told you guys that we got the return of a previous guest. And joining us right now is Michael the Problem McKinson. What's up, Mike? Let me get
How you doing?
Hey, first of all, I appreciate it. I already told all the viewers and listeners that you're staying up late for us. You're in the middle of training, so I appreciate it, my man.
You know,
Um,
it's not too late for most people. It's 10:30 here in the UK, but I was telling you guys before that when I'm training, I had my last spar tonight. I'm in bed for 8 p.m. so I've had a coffee. I'm actually in my pajamas, so apologies. But I'm good. It's all good.
Hey, listen, even I don't train for fights, and I'm usually in bed by 8. So I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But hey, listen, this is your first fight after being out of the ring for around 17 months. How is your
Yep.
training going?
It's gone well. I'm in good shape again. Uh, it has been a tough 17 months, but we finally have something. We finally have some news. So I'll be fighting in Lagos, Nigeria next Friday, live on DAZN.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've got myself back into good shape. My team have um, worked really hard over the last few months, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
Now, listen, have you had to do anything in terms of, your training differently because of the layoff?
You know, it's difficult because most people, because they've not seen me for a long time, they might have thought I've been out of the gym and I've not been involved in boxing, but I've still been in the gym. I've still been working since that 17 months ago, that last fight. It's just I haven't been able to get a fight. I've been a sparring partner over the last year. I've made sacrifices, spent time away from my family, like training, bit sparring. I just haven't had that end fight. So I've kept myself healthy. We've added a new conditioning coach to the team this fight, but the rest of the team we've kept the same. We're a strong knit team. We we all work well together, and they've got me back into amazing shape.
Well, that's good. I was wondering about if you had to, get extra sparring, to shake off some rust or
Yeah,
or whatever.
I've spent a little time in. I was a few weeks ago. I was out in Rome, in Italy, sparring, and then I've just got back from Scotland as well. So we finished sparring out up in Scotland. Um, we were on the lookout for young, tall opposition to spar, and it took us to a place called Stirling in Scotland. So I spent a little time up there, but I'm back now for a little bit before flying to Nigeria.
I got one of my guys in the chat room. He's got a question here for you. I'll
Yep.
put it up on the screen. But he's saying you took your first loss late in your career. Did that defeat expose something in your style, or did it prove you belonged at that level?
So I've actually had two losses. Um, I took my first defeat back in about 3 years ago now. I boxed Virgil Ortiz out in Texas, and you can never be proud of a loss, but I took a lot from that and a lot of praise, and I proved to everyone I was world level. But then that last loss back 18 months ago for the IBO against Tulani and Bengay, it was a tough one to take, and not many people know, but in the build up for that fight, I was out in Philadelphia sparring with Boots. I had an amazing camp, but I flew home 10 days before I was due to fight with the flu. I was sick, and I took a gamble on it because I had such a good training camp, such good sparring. You can't get better sparring than Boots, and I gambled on it and thought if I could shift this flu and go into fight week and make weight, I'll be okay. And made weight okay, started to breathe again, felt good, but you never really know how you're gonna be until you're under them lights. And had a good first round, and then every bit of energy was sucked out of my body, and I lost to somebody where 9 times out of 10 on a good night I would have beat that guy. Um, Definitely. So it was a tough one to take. And since some people think with a loss, more people will want to fight you. Well, I've took that loss and I'm more avoided.
Yeah. Well, fighters like you, other fighters respect because you do fight the tougher fights, and I think I hope you learn that if you're not 100%, don't care what the fans say. You got to be 100%, because hey, listen, you're fighting an opponent who's a young kid, 21 years old. He's undefeated. He's got a high knockout ratio, 75%. Are you expecting him to come right at you? And if you are, did you train for that?
Of course, like I am a 30 professional fight veteran now. There's no style that I've never seen before. I've boxed tall guys before. Chris Congo, I put him down in the first round. Just for an example, I fought young guys before. Um, and more importantly, I fought undefeated guys before. I think he might have been the sixth or seventh undefeated guy of box. So, and that, I know what it's like going into a big fight undefeated. Before, when I went to fight Virgil Ortiz, that confidence I had was I'd never tasted defeat before. So this guy, this young kid, he's going to have that same aura, that same confidence. But one thing I'm good at, well, one thing you can't buy experience, definitely. And another thing I'm so good at is these young, undefeated, confident guys, round by round, their confidence will fade. He's a young kid that he's looked very good in the clips I've seen. He's looked very good at a very little level,
Right.
and
Right.
and he's going from swimming with goldfish to swimming in open waters with a shark that's been there and done it, and it's a massive jump for him. And I'm going to make him all that experience I've gained over the years. I'm going to make him feel every single inch of it.
The truth of the matter is he's only had 9 fights in his whole life. He only fought 1 amateur fight.
Yeah.
And he lost. So he's only got 9 fights under
Yeah,
his.
but BoxRec don't show every amateur fight on there. On BoxRec, my amateur record is 1 loss, but I actually had near on 60 amateur fights.
Well, BoxRec's not. People think they're not the official record keeping. It's called
No.
Fight Facts, but you know that.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But
Yeah.
the fact is, he's a young, confident kid that hasn't put a foot wrong. But I'm about to show there's a massive jump in levels.
It looks like it just by judging who he has fought, he's clearly jumping a huge jump in levels. Do you feel that the layoff you had has helped you in any way? I mean, you said you were working hard anyway. I mean, but did you have a chance to refresh, not only your body but your mind?
My mind's been very frustrated, if I'm honest, for the last 16 months, not being able to get anything. And you got to think boxing's my job. I've got 4 children at home. I had a baby son last year without getting fights. Like, children are expensive. So it has been frustrated, and it hasn't really, like, being at home without a fight. Don't really rest because I've got lots of kids. But
No wonder why you have to go so far away to train. You got to be able to
yeah,
get some sleep, right?
that's it. That's it. But I've got children to feed, and without boxing, it does get tough. So there's a lot of built up frustration, um, and I'm about to unleash it next week.
Well, listen, a win next week should get you right back into the conversation.
Yeah.
Not that you're looking past it, but do you think that adds more pressure too? And assuming everything goes well, is there anybody you have your sights on?
There's a little bit of pressure. Me being the experienced guy that's kind of had a bit of what some people say a layoff, not being able to fight, trying to get everything back. But I'm very focused on this job. Like, I'm very confident. I know how important this task is next week for me and my career. Um, but since I lost to Mbenge, I haven't used my voice as much because I haven't felt like I've deserved to, because the fact is I have come off a loss. So after I get the job done next week, I'll be using my voice again for sure, and I will be getting them big fights.
Is that what you would want? Like a big fight? I mean, assuming that I know that was a stupid question, but I mean it sincerely. Assuming you get the job done in Nigeria, I mean, don't you think another fight could add some value? Another win could add some value for the big fight, because once you get past this guy on next week, the calls are going to come. You know that they're gonna. It's gonna be up to you whether you take the first one or not. Is that something that you're gonna do?
If it makes sense, we're taking it. Time waits for no man. I'm in my prime. I've wasted a whole year, no fault of mine. I turned 32 a few days ago. Time waits for no man. So we want them big fights straight away. We do. I'm a young 32. I'm healthy. I live a good life, and you know, people don't really would say I was that age, but I am. So I want these big fights. Sooner the better.
The Virgil Ortiz fight. I know it didn't come out the way you wanted. Was the fact that it was under a big light fight, did that add to it, that you feel that you've been able to, now you've been there, done that, that's not going to happen to you again?
Yeah, in that Virgil Ortiz fight, we'll brush over the fact that I cut him. I won rounds against him. I was an awful night's work for him. I gave him a lot of problems he had never seen in the ring before. I took him further than anybody else at that time, and I earned the respect of the boxing world. I was always in the fight, and I pulled out, my father pulled me out with a hip injury in round 9, so I proved a lot that night. I proved I was world class. I proved I can stand in there with the best. So ever since then, that's always, like when people say, "Oh, what's your goal?" My goal's the top, because I know I can compete there. It's not this guy or this guy. My goal is the very top. So yeah, we take care of business next week, and then I'm only looking at the top names.
Well, listen, that would be great, and that if one of those fall in your lap and it works out great, then you're really in good shape. But you know that.
Yeah, that's it.
And you're in good hands. I know you're in good hands. So, anything you want to add in closing before you go to sleep? I mean, can we expect anything? If we watch you on DAZN, what are we going to see?
Tune in, people that have watched my rise, watched me in my big fights in the past, know what to expect, a clinical performance. But this fight's going to be an old dog taking a young cub to school.
I'll tell you what, it's got the makings for that. That's for sure. But I appreciate you taking the time. I know I'll be watching, and we look forward to having you on again.
No, I appreciate letting me come on.
Hey, brother, good luck. I'll be watching.
See ya.
All right, that's Michael the Problem McKinson. You can check him out Friday. He's fighting on DAZN, and remember, he took some time to be with us today, so I appreciate that. Okay, speaking of Virgil Ortiz, his arbitration setting has been set against Oscar De La Hoya for July 14th, and we had heard what Oscar's gripe was, and according to the file documents, Ortiz said that he feels he could have earned a minimum of $16 million to fight Gerard Ennis and Golden Boy only offered him $3 million. That's speculation, and the whole point with Golden Boy was that not only did he accuse Ortiz's manager trying to basically move Ortiz to a different promoter while he was under contract. To say unless he had it in writing could be speculation. I don't know. I mean, I could see Oscar De La Hoya winning this one. I really can, to be honest with you. But all right, here we go. My Zuffa boxing update. Okay, everybody. No, I'm not part of Zuffa boxing, and I don't get paid to promote them. But I wanted to give you some update. Now, first and foremost, Richardson Hitchens gave up his IBF junior welterweight title, and he said he was glad to have had it. And the IBF basically said, we're glad you have had it. And, okay, here you go. We're going to let Delgado fight the best fighter for it and blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. Richardson Hitchens had signed a deal with Zuffa Boxing. And he is, the whole title thing, the same thing that happened with Opataya. So I mean, he signed a deal with Zuffa, and gave up his title. That's telling me that the Zuffa title. They also signed Zuffa Boxing. Also signed former WBO champion Chris Billum Smith, Otto Wallen, who's a heavyweight contender, signed with Zuffa Boxing. Connor Benn, he had signed that one deal that everybody was so critical of. He got $15 million in basically an easy fight. Well, guess what? He signed a long-term deal right after that fight. So, and he is trying to get his fight with Ryan Garcia. Ryan Rizicki, who's a cruiserweight, he signed with them. So we'll see what happens. Not only did Richardson Hitchens, who just gave up that title, sign with him, Edgar Berlanga signed with them. So I mean, look, I remember what I said. I predicted that Canelo Alvarez, his next fight, which will be in September, they haven't announced who it's going to be against, will be fighting for a Zuffa title. You watch. That's going to be the title. And I also believe that Usyk will end his career with Zuffa Boxing. I also believe that Ryan Garcia and Shakur Stevenson will also fight for Zuffa Boxing. So we're going to see what happens moving forward. I do know that, we have been being treated to some good fights because of the pressure that Zuffa Boxing is putting on the rest of the promoters. At least that's my opinion. Which brings me to the fight that's taking place this weekend. I was planning on watching two heavyweight fights, but it looks like I'll be watching one. And this one is the Jarrell Miller against Linier Pero fight. And Pero is a 13-0 Cuban fighter. He's got 8 knockouts. The computer ranks him at number 49. The WBA, however, has him ranked at number 2, and he's not rated anywhere else. The WBC, the WBO, the IBF, the Ring, or ESPN. He's 33 years old at 13-0, but he's actually 4 years younger than Miller. He is a southpaw. Cuban southpaw fighters are tricky, for no doubt about that. He's 6'4.5" with a 79-inch reach, which is about the same as Miller. He's got a pretty extensive amateur record: 98 wins, 19 losses. But of the 19 losses in the amateur level, he was stopped twice. That's something to keep in mind. His career, 13 wins. In my opinion, he was very carefully moved. Nowhere near the level of opposition that Miller has faced. his best wins was actually his last fight, which took place November of 2025. He won a 10-round decision over Jordan Thompson, who was 15-1 at the time. And his only other notable win, at least in my opinion, you have to go back to November of 2023 when he stopped Victor Vikhurston in the 8th round. And Vikhurston was 11-0. Now he steps in the ring with Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller, his record 27 wins, 1 loss. And that loss, he was stopped, and that came at the hands of Daniel Dubois, who stopped him in the 10th and final round. He also has 2 draws, one against Andy Ruiz in 2024, and you got to go all the way back to 2013 when he had a draw with Joey Duejko. 27 of his wins, 22 came by knockout. He's 37 years old. He's got an 80, close to 82% KO ratio versus Perro's 62%. Like I said, they're about the same size and reach. Miller's 6'4", 78-inch reach. Remember, he had almost 4-year layoff from November of 2018 to June of 2023 due to a suspension, steroid use. But moving up to that fight, I mean, this was a guy that fought all the top contenders at the time. In 2017, he stopped Gerald Washington in the 8th round. In April of 2018, he won a unanimous decision over Johan Duhaupas. In October of 2018, a second-round knockout over Tomasz Adamek. And also in 2018, he had a busy year. 4th-round knockout over Bogdan Dine. And in Dinu, I'm sorry. And in March of 2023, he had a 6th-round stoppage over Lucas Brown. His last fight, Kingsley Abay, was a hard fight to watch. But the thing about Miller, well, the best thing about that was the toupee fight, right? But the way I see this fight going, look, Perro is a good boxer, and he's a Cuban boxer, which is, how he's going to fight. He's going to be very, very sharp, very refined, but he's going to be susceptible to the bullying. He's going to be susceptible to the body work. He's going to be susceptible to the bully, the tactics, the hitting on the break, hitting a little below the belt, maybe an elbow or two, maybe an unintentional headbutt, body work. I just think that Jarrell Miller, the styles make fights, and the Cuban fighters sometimes, and especially with all the amateur fights that he had, and he's only had 13 professional fights, he doesn't have the experience that a Jarrell Miller has. And he certainly doesn't have the pedigree Jarrell Miller, at least prior to his suspension, that he had. I'm picking an upset in this fight. I think Jarrell Miller is going to come out on top. I wouldn't be surprised if he stops Perro. I would be very surprised if Perro stops Jarrell Miller. And if he does, that would be the end of Jarrell Miller's career, in my opinion, because the guy, with the exception of getting knocked out by Daniel Dubois, has been in there and has never gone down. So I do believe that it's going to be an upset. I'm not a Jarrell Miller fan at all, but I think he's going to beat Perro. I just think that the rough and tough, tumble type fight is what he's going to get. What Jarrell Miller's going to give. And that's the weakness. That's the kryptonite to Cuban fighters, in my opinion. I got an email. This is from my man Jordan from the UK. He says, hey, Billy C., I hope all is well. Just a thought regarding one of your emailers talking about the weight divisions. I personally like them the way they are, but I'm in favor of upping the cruiserweight to 210 pounds. They would get rid of that Bridger weight division garbage, and I can't recall anyone other than Roy Jones fighting below 210 at heavy, notable fighter or title fights anyway. Tyson and Deontay had fought around 215, but you can't. Can you think of anyone who fought lower. He says coach is racking his brains out. Listen, it was a lot of fighters. I mean, Rocky Marciano fought at 188 pounds. I mean, Jack Johnson, who was considered a monster at his time, he fought at 201 pounds. Mike Tyson, he fought, 211 pounds, I believe, was his, best weight. So I think there's been a lot of fighters that have fought close to 200 pounds, especially, fighters of yesteryear. But, I've always said that Lennox Lewis changed the complexion of the heavyweight division. Lennox Lewis kind of ushered in the normalcy of a heavyweight being 6'4", 240 pounds of muscle now. Now they're even bigger. 6'4" guy would go in there, and you're saying, oh, he's kind of short, he's kind of small. He's fighting a 6'6" guy. So he says, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Fury, which I gave earlier. He says, I was actually quite surprised and thought he looked pretty good despite having lost a step. He had the engine for 12 and shook off the ring rust. Now it's time for AJ fight, but I think the egos wanting to be the first on the poster and ring walking second, etc., may get in the way. Glad to hear the blast is back. Remember, it was he remembers it back. Yeah, we are going to do the blast from the past. Thanks, Jordan. I think that I talked about the Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua fight in the beginning of the show. I do personally think that fight won't expire. I also think that Tyson Fury looked good against the perfect opponent, and I think that that's why he's trying to target Anthony Joshua. He knows that, I think he knows deep down that he can't beat Usyk, and Wardley might be a little too powerful for him. Deontay Wilder, who cares? Nobody wants to see that fight again. I don't even want to see Deontay Wilder fight anybody, to be honest with you. Maybe the winner of Wardley Dubois, and because either one of them would destroy him. But in any event, So final update on the Floyd Mayweather Manny Pacquiao. It was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. It was announced. Team Pacquiao has ironclad, signed, sealed, and delivered contracts. They gave Floyd Mayweather a deadline. I don't think I heard any publicized response by the deadline, but the day after, you heard that the fight is set. It's going to be counting as a real fight, et cetera, et cetera. We've heard that from Manny Pacquiao. The only stuff we've heard from Floyd Mayweather is that it's going to be a good fight. They're doing it for the fans. They're both going to fight their hardest, but he's not risking his 50-0. I think that speaks volumes, boys and girls. Quite frankly, I don't care about the fight. And, these two guys made a huge mistake by not fighting, or actually Floyd Mayweather made the mistake of not fighting sooner. But I think his fear, because that's what it is, he's afraid of that. Because he has built his whole persona around it, even though the whole thought process of 50-0 is fraudulent to begin with. The truth of the matter is that he wasn't all that. He was a cherry picker towards the end. The first, when he was Pretty Boy Floyd, extremely talented, fun to watch, exciting to watch. When it became about the money, he became a calculating, non-risk taker and cheated his fans who had given him $1 billion of total fight revenue that he made, by fleecing them with we never even got to see the best Floyd Mayweather because of the level of opposition that he chose to fight. And to think that the guy bragged about being 50-0 and made over $1 billion and is broke right now. So he may be the money by name, but he certainly doesn't know how to manage his friggin' money. And to suggest that he wouldn't be willing to, even as a selling tool, to put the fight on the line, to put his record on the line, just goes to show you what type of person that he really is. And the fact that he's trying to sell a exhibition, he's trying to sell a fight that really doesn't have the interest that he thinks it does, and that even Manny thinks it does. I mean, the only people that have an interest in the fight are older fans. I don't think any of the young fans could give a rat's ass about Floyd Mayweather fighting Manny Pacquiao, both of them pushing 50 years old. I really don't. If it wasn't on Netflix, I couldn't see it selling a lot. It's going to be interesting to see if Netflix even wants it. Like my man John said, they want the shock value. And there's not going to be any shock. The only shock is if they have to bring a defibrillator there with these two guys, But I personally can't see Floyd standing a chance against Manny. I can't, and I still to this day think if Manny was 100%, he would have beat Floyd. And I would have liked Floyd to have fought him when they were both younger. Manny had already lost a step. But anyway, that's the update on that. I appreciate you joining me this week. Make sure you tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.